Hello, I'm Sai Krishna, a computer science PhD student from Carnegie Mellon University. Specifically, I'm associated with Language Technologies Institute, which means I get to work on understanding and building technologies for language, a superpower of human species. I also work with a very cool advisor, Professor Alan Black, who is typically regarded as the Dumbledore of computer science. So I have a ton of fun working on my PhD. I'm super excited to be recording this video as part of Facebook Fellowship virtual meetup, and I can't wait to check out other people's recordings as well. I'm originally from India. I spent most of my time in a city called Hyderabad, which is known, among other things, for its food and specifically an item called biryani. You should check it out. I had ton of fun growing up in Hyderabad. I used to be very outdoors. I remember the city like the back of my hand. Some of the best recollections I have of Hyderabad are the midnight rides we used to have to all parts of the city, looking for dosa. Dosa is this South Indian recipe, and most of my friends regard it as the darling of South Indian cuisine. I have always wanted to be an engineer, but my liking with respect to computer science was inspired by two sources, which pretty much happened in the first year of my undergrad. The first was I was actually an electronics and communication major, but I saw a TED talk by Professor Neil Gershenfeld from MIT Media Labs. He gave this wonderful talk, which can be described in one liner as how to build almost anything. It was essentially a documentary on Fab Labs, an initiative by MIT Media Labs, and I was gripped by the talk. They used computer science as a core building block to accomplish a lot of very cool things, and I was drawn to computer science because of that. The second inspiration came from this very little known comedy studio called Marvel, and they made a movie in 2008 of uh, a very little known second grade hero called Iron Man. And when I watched the movie Iron Man for the first time, my imagination was lit on fire. I really wanted to build an intelligent agent like Jarvis, and I knew that that was possible only by computer science, and I was instantly drawn to computer science. As part of my PhD, I'm very interested in understanding the evolution of technology, and specifically, I work in the area of speech technology. So I'm interested in answering the question how to build ubiquitous speech technologies. To do that, I am proposing a framework called de-entanglement. But before going into the details of de-entanglement, let me give a brief overview of what happens today and why the motivation for de-entanglement. So today we have come very far in the evolution of speech technologies. It's pretty commonplace to use speech-based interfaces like Siri or Alexa or Google Home to ask questions like what is the capital of Peru or who is the richest man in the world, etc. So we have fairly regular interactions with these devices now, and at the back end of each of these systems, the process is pretty straightforward and pretty similar. They follow a sequence of operations or sequence of tasks. For example, if we take the query, what is the capital of Peru? Then the speech utterance is first sent as input to a automatic speech recognition module, which might contain denoising capabilities and adaptation techniques. But this module essentially converts a speech utterance into text form, and an NLP module takes this text form and does some operations on top of this, which is subsequently sent to a TTS engine, text-to-speech engine, which speaks out the result to us. So it is essentially a sequence of operations or a sequence of tasks. Now, this is a wonderful way of building systems. Of course, all of these devices have been built using this system. However, when a technology has to transition from being a proof of concept or something that works to something that is ubiquitous, there are certain challenges that the technology needs to overcome. An example challenge in the context of speech is scalability. So, how do we build systems, as my advisor mentions, that work for all of the people all of the time, meaning people from all accents and all dialects, and not just for some people some of the time, or most people some of the times, or most people most of the times. If we take this example scenario and look at how to go about solving this challenge has to be fundamentally solved at all of the individual modules involved. And this leads to repetitive solutions. And we almost always try to avoid repetitive solutions in software design. The other observation that we can make today is that all of these individual modules are in fact built using the core deep learning architectures, which are common across the modules. Everything uses convolutions, LSTMs, transformer-based networks. Development of deep learning, we are in a position to take a step back and have a holistic view of this entire process and ask the question, can we replace this step-by-step sequence operation, which is essentially a process-based or task-based approach, by something else? And de-entanglement is essentially one such framework. In the world of de-entanglement, for the same use case, we still have the sequence of operations, but that's where the similarity ends. In the world of de-entanglement, the core object is not the task as speech recognition or NLP or text to speech, but the core object is the information in the signal. So in the from the perspective of de-entanglement, the speech utterance is input to the first module, and the first module essentially transforms the input signal into some form of information, and this information is essentially transformed multiple times until we have the final output. And being from language technologies, I divide the information into two parts at each transformation level. One part is about the content information in the signal, and the other part is the style information in the signal. From the perspective of speech, content information refers to the acoustic phonetic information in the signal, and style refers to the paralinguistic information in the signal. And each of these two types of information can also be subdivided, and they can be at multiple levels. For example, the content information in the speech utterance, what is the capital of Peru, can be at the word level, at the phone level, at the syllable level, and at multiple different levels. The same applies to the style information as well. It can be language information or emotional information, intent information, etc. And the key idea in de-entanglement is that all of these levels of information coexist, but only some of them are relevant depending upon the task at hand. For instance, in this example, with respect to content, the most important information perhaps is in terms of words and not in terms of phonemes or syllables. Similarly, for other applications, the content information might be well represented at the level of phonemes as opposed to the level of words. There might be some applications where we need to have multiple levels of information of content as well as style.